Greetings, YouTube community. It is I, the Family Car Guy, back at you guys with another video. And as you guys can see behind me, we do have the Z06, C6 Z06 back in the building, back from Race Proven Motorsports. There's going to be a ton of videos coming up talking about that. So excited to have this car back on the channel. As if you follow me on Instagram, which you should do immediately if you have not done so already, you've seen the dyno sheet. You've seen a couple of pictures that I posted up there. I'm pretty sure I posted a video, but if I haven't, I will do that tonight of how it sounds now that it is back with the heads and the cam and all the cool modifications. But that is not the subject of this video. This video is the ushering in of the C8 Corvette era. As you guys have seen over the last few days, tons of YouTubers and now myself included joining the fray, talking about the C8 Corvette, the mid-engine C8 Corvette. The Zora Arcus Duntov vision has been realized. The C8 mid-engine Corvette is upon us. It is exciting times. As we have discussed and as many people have talked about over the last few months and even the last few years, really, the C8 mid-engine Corvette, the idea of a mid-engine Corvette has been very polarizing. But I have to say, now that we have seen it in person, now that we have seen it in the reveal, that car really does look fantastic. Just all the specs, the presentation, the thought behind it, when you put it all together, this really is a phenomenal car. It really, really is. So let me give you guys my thoughts on it, and we'll kind of talk about a few different things from my perspective as a Corvette owner myself, a younger millennial Corvette owner more specifically, but how I feel like the C8 Corvette really is legitimately the next evolution of Corvette. So first of all, we have to talk about price. They stated from the stage that it is going to be less than 60 grand. And that is just phenomenal. I mean, a car with the performance that the C8 mid-engine Corvette has at that price point is absolutely phenomenal. That is just, it's an incredible value based on the specs we've seen thus far for the base model Corvette, the base model version of the C8. That's phenomenal. I'm really, really, really excited about that. Some could say that based on the class of cars that is competing against, if we're talking about more exotic cars, based on the mid-engine architecture, that maybe that's a little low, but the Corvette has always been the everyman's supercar. So fitting the bill in that price range and staying right where they are basically currently, you know, a 2019 C7 base model Corvette is going to be somewhere in that $50,000 to $55,000 range, depending upon incentives and things like that, and also how you spec it out. If you get the Z51 package, if you decide to go up to a Grand Sport, et cetera, et cetera. So keeping it in that same price range is fantastic, I really think. The exterior, me personally, I was kind of iffy on the exterior until I saw the car in person. The car really does look great, and it's only going to look better when you consider the fact that if they do make a Z06, which I'm pretty confident that they will, the ground effects and all the other things that, the aero and all the other things that make the car kind of look more aggressive and more sporty and more purpose-built like a race car, is only going to make the car look even better than I think it already does. And I already do think that even as a base model, it already looks really good. The only two things that I would say is, number one, the wing from the Z51 package, which is the car that we saw on the stage at the reveal. I didn't really love the wing. I didn't love the wing in all the leaked photos. I still don't love it. But the high wing to me looks cool. Other people would say that the high wing kind of looks bad, which I've heard a lot of people say that. I actually love the high wing. I probably would order mine with the high wing. I'm a big fan of the high wing on the 2019 C7 ZR1. I probably would order a 2019 ZR1 if I was in the market for one. with the high wing. I understand all the drag implications, but I just love how it looks. So that's just me personally. But I really think that this car is a smash hit already before we have seen any in a production form on the street. Um, that being said, let's move on to performance. 495 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque. That is absolutely phenomenal. It's the most powerful base model Corvette ever. I mean, that's fantastic. It's still a push rod V8. It's the LT2 motor now. It's based on the LT1 from the C7 generation Corvette, but it's now in a mid-engine format. It's that all of the Corvettes now, all the C8 Corvettes going forward are now going to be dry sump, which means they're going to be more track ready. The C6 Z06, by comparison, that's sitting behind me has a dry sump oil system, and in that, back in the day when the C6 Z06 was new, that was considered a feature exclusive for cars that were going to be prepared for track duty. So now to see that every C8 Corvette is going to have that is absolutely phenomenal. And then we get to the 0 to 60 time of less than 3 seconds for a base model Corvette. That's just phenomenal when you really think about it. I mean, the benchmark, and I'm going to post the link to this article. It's a Road and Track article where Taj Juter, the chief engineer for the C8 Corvette and for previous versions of the Corvette as well, talks about what some of the design elements and some of the decisions they made in making the C8 mid-engine Corvette. And one of the cars that they benchmarked against was the Ferrari 458, which I personally have driven a Ferrari 458. And that car, in my opinion, is one of the best sports cars they've ever made. A lot of people say that, and I happen to agree. I drove it on a track, and I've driven one on the street through various exotic driving events, and that car really is the real deal. I've driven a 488. I think that although that car is faster, I can see what some journalists say about some of the compromises that car makes just because it's in the name of being faster and better, quote unquote. But anyway, so for that car to be the benchmark for the C8 mid-engine Corvette it just speaks to the performance and the metrics that they were really looking for. One of the things that Taj Juter mentioned in the article about why the C8 Corvette in Road and Track was the limitations that they were reaching with the front engine platform that they discovered even as early as the C6. So when they came out with the C6 ZR1, if you guys remember the C6 Z06, which again is behind me, had 505 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque at the crank. And then the C6 ZR1 had 638 horsepower with the LS9 motor and with a blower on it. And it also made 638 horsepower and 600 pound-feet of torque. And the C6 Z06 did 0 to 60 in about 3.7 seconds. And then the C6 ZR1 did 0 to 60 in about 3.5, 3.4 seconds, depending upon what article you were reading and who was testing it. But Taj was saying how they were struggling to make the C6 ZR1 from a 0 to 60 perspective significantly quicker than the C6 Z06. And at that point, that was when they really started having issues making the car significantly faster. And he said one of the major factors of making it faster was actually putting on better, stickier tires to really get that power to the ground. So at that point, they really started realizing, hey, we're kind of to the limit. And you even see that with the C7 ZR1, where the C7 ZR1 has 755 horsepower and 715 pound-feet of torque. Correct me if I'm wrong. But you're seeing that car does 0 to 60 in like 2.83 or 2.85 seconds, where if you have an automatic C7 Z06, that's advertised as 2.9 seconds. So you can see that even with nearly 100 more horsepower, over 100 more horsepower, you're not getting a huge difference in 0 to 60 times, because now we're struggling to put the power down. And of course, in other areas, like on a track and things like that, of course, the ZR1 is going to be faster than a Z06. but on the street, it's kind of like the difference is kind of negligible. So at that point, that's when Taj and the team at GM realized, hey, this is kind of about as far as we're going to be able to get with this platform from a performance perspective. And that's when the mid-engine architecture just became more and more, just made more and more sense. So I can definitely get why they went to this platform. And you see that with the base models, performance of advertised as less than 3 seconds with the base model with 495 horsepower. So that shows this mid-engine platform, really there is something to it. One thing that's controversial that people, and myself included, because I love a manual transmission, I really do. I have to say that even after watching everything that we've already seen, that I am still disappointed that there, to this point, is not a manual transmission option, but I do understand why they went with the dual clutch. If you read that Road and Track article, they talk about, Taj Victor himself talks about how the pedal placement, based on the fact that the mid-engine architecture forced the rear wheels further back and the rear axle also further back to accommodate the cockpit and get all the measurements right and make the car entry and exit still livable for people who are coming from a front engine Corvette. And so going to a mid-engine where it's harder to get into and out of because of the door sills and everything like that, and trying to get those specs right to make the car everyday livable, they had to sacrifice that would really pinch where you would put a third pedal, where you would put the clutch pedal. And they also needed proper packaging of that transmission to fit in the area where they were going to have to place it with the engine, and also have all the torque standards and all those things where it'll be able to handle the power that's going to go into the mid-engine Corvette and subsequent Corvettes, aka Corvettes that will have more power than the base model. So I actually get it. And I've driven several dual clutch cars before. I've driven some 911s with dual clutches. They are very, very quick. They do in some ways function like a manual in terms of when you bang through the gears, you really feel the shifts and everything like that. And then there's also a feature that will be included on the new mid-engine Corvette where if you pull on both paddles at the same time, it'll drop the car into neutral. So there's some features. Obviously, if you are a diehard Corvette purist who wants a manual transmission, that's still a bummer for you. I'm still bummed, but I plan on never selling my C6 Z06. It's my dream car. So for me, if I were to get a C8 mid-engine Corvette, I don't think I'd be incredibly disappointed because I'd have something else that would kind of scratch that itch for me. But that is just, I mean, I get from a performance perspective why they did that. I have to give a huge just shout out to that engineering team though. I mean, because one of the things that they did, which I thought personally where we're going to have to compromise, was everyday livability. And it seems like they made a tremendous effort to make this car still everyday livable. I mean, they have a front trunk, which we all expected, but they also have a rear trunk. Obviously, it's not going to be the same capacity as the trunks in the previous front engine Corvettes that we have come to know and love, but you can fit the roof, the removable roof, which is also something that was carried over. And also you can fit several golf bags and things like that. So this car really is going to be everyday livable like we have talked about. Real quick side note on back to the horsepower specs, that is under the assumption, the 495 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque is under the assumption that you get the Z51 package, which means you get the exhaust, the performance exhaust that bumps you up 5 horsepower and 5 pound-feet of torque. Otherwise, you have 490 horsepower and 465 pound-feet of torque. So minor detail, but just something to be mentioned. So I personally think, and the presentation where they did it, the day they did it in terms of the 50th anniversary of the Apollo moon landing and having Scott Kelly and Mae Jemison giving the presentation and talking about the ties between astronauts and Corvettes and how that legacy has been formed and how it continues to this day. So that was really awesome. One thing that I do want to point out, and I actually agree with, I think it was My Corvette Life who talked about this too, is that the future of the Corvette in terms of ownership. I mean, the goal of GM with the Corvette is to get the buyers to skew younger and to get more younger people interested in Corvettes, because these are the people that are not going to buy just today's Corvette, but they're also going to buy tomorrow's Corvette. So getting YouTubers and other young influencers, I guess is the hip term to call it now, to really fall in love with this car and really market it for GM and reach audiences that previously GM has not done a great job reaching, aka younger audiences. I think that this was kind of a huge miss for them, that we didn't see a lot more prominent YouTubers. I think My Corvette Life, he talked about like Street Speed 717, you know, Vehicle Virgins, people like that. It was a little disappointing to see that those guys weren't there. I know some guys got some free tickets. C Gardner Speed 252, Brink of Speed. If you guys don't watch those channels, check them out. They're awesome. We got to see some people there, and we'll see content from them in the coming days and weeks. But you know, really, I think that was a big miss on GM's part. But generally, outside of that, the C8 mid-engine Corvette is far from a disappointment. The interior, you know, before we wrap up this video, I did want to talk about the interior as well. I love the steering wheel. The steering wheel is awesome. The square steering wheel, I know some people may not like it, but from a racing perspective and from a track perspective, I think the wheel is it's beautiful and it's going to be functional. So I actually really like it. I didn't like it at first when I saw the leaked photos, but seeing it in its form on at the reveal, I really like it. The only thing I didn't really like about the interior was that long cascading center console with the buttons for like the climate controls and the heated seats and all those things. That looks a little busy to me. I don't love that. I probably, if I owned the car, if I saw it in person, I probably would get over that. But it just kind of looks a little awkward to me. But the fact that you can get the interior and the exterior and all these different options already on the base model Corvette is just awesome. I mean, just that's one thing I think has been a strike against Corvette in the past, is that the customizability in terms of the different types of seats and the different color patterns and contrast and things like that hasn't been as broad as some of its competitors, including not just the exotic builds, because you expect that with an exotic brand, but even like the Dodge Challenger, you know, seeing different like cool colors like plum crazy purple for the Challenger and things like that, where Dodge has really embraced just kind of doing some out of the box or some kind of a little bit more controversial things that has kept their cars, even though they're aging, still relevant. And now the C8 Corvette is moving in that direction. So that's really exciting. So tell me what you guys think. Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments. If you are not subscribed to this channel, please hit that subscribe button. Please hit that notification bell so that you get all the updates on this channel. If you do not know who I am, this is your first time being here. This is the Family Car Guy channel. I have a C6 Z06 2006. It has just gotten heads and cam and other supporting mods from Race Proven Motorsports, and I also have a C4 Corvette, a 1996 with the LT4 Grand Sport motor. It is right there. There it is. You can see it. So, doing a lot of cool things on this channel. I apologize I didn't put up video last week. I was sick as a dog and I was just in bed like the whole weekend. So we're back. I definitely had to make this video because of the reveal. We all have to talk about it. And my Samsung watch is doing all kinds of weird things right now, being distracting. But anyway, just want to tell you guys, thank you so much. Those of you who do support this channel and have watched and followed me along through this journey. And I'm just excited that we're in a new chapter of Corvette. And I can't wait to see what else is in store. Hope you guys will come with us and continue to join us on this journey and be a part of the community. And we will catch you guys in the next one. God bless. Have a blessed day. Peace out.